Hello and welcome to another episode of Can I Be Phished? I'm Scott Wright, CEO of ClickArmor, here today with Pete Matheson. Hi, Pete. How are you doing today?
Very well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. I wonder, first of all, if you could introduce yourself, tell people a little bit about your background, and then we'll get into the typical analysis of a phishing email, unboxing of a phishing email. I'll show people my steps for analyzing it, and then we'll get into a little more discussion after that. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about your background to start with.
Absolutely. So I guess my MSP journey, I started started my own MSP back in 2011. Started by myself, one-man band, grew that over the next decade through to over 1 million turnover, 16 staff. And then very, very fortunately, in the early 2020, I then exited and sold the MSP. So got out just at the right time, some would say. But I'm very thankful. The stress levels are a lot lower. So that's very, very thankful for that. But
Good for you.
Yeah, I sold my MSP and now I'm just kind of consulting with other MSPs. Quite a few contacted me to say, hey, I noticed what you did. Can you do that for us? And I've gone,
yes.
hey, yeah, that sounds cool. It's all the fun stuff of strategy and marketing and everything without any of the stress of actually running the business. So great.
Yeah, you're living the life, man.
Absolutely.
Awesome. That's great. So what we're going to do as usual in this program, we will do a really quick analysis of a phishing email using a set of steps that I typically tell people. It's fun to remember. Basically, number one is the gut feel garbage check. We're going to just see if things kind of look off to start with, that we can discard them. We'll look at sender sanity, looking at the sender information in an email. We'll look at link elusiveness, what makes the links potentially suspicious in an email, and body believability. So it's, what can you glean from the content that in that message that makes sense or doesn't? And hopefully by the end of that, we will be able to throw it out if it's bad. You may not necessarily have a guarantee that it's good or bad, but at least you'll be further down the road than you were before. So I'm going to share my screen and we are going to take a look at a message that I received not too long ago. And so you've heard of this company, Pete, called FedEx?
I do. Yeah, we've got them over here.
Yep. So if we were to look at this to start with, I'm using a Mac, obviously. And one of the things that I tell people is I have my settings set to not load remote content by default. It doesn't make my emails look as pretty when I'm previewing them or viewing them. But what it does is it prevents any kind of an attacker from putting an image link in a message that will tell them that I've opened the message. So the reason I care about that is because if they're using a list of email addresses that they've purchased, they like to keep track of which ones are good and have been recently active. So the moment you load an image in some of these messages, it tells the person who sent it that this account is still active and good. So I typically have my remote image loading turned off. So that'll show me, not many images. Sometimes they will embed an image in the message, but basically this is what a lot of messages look like. Even if they're legitimate, you don't see any fancy images when you do this. But what I can do is look at this in general and say, does this look, at first glance without reading anything, like it could be thrown out? Well, it's kind of nicely formatted in a way. And if it's clearly it's from FedEx, so I can't miss that. Is it formatted in a way that kind of is consistent with something that might come from FedEx? Well, could be. I'm not going to throw it out just because of the way it looks. So the next step after the gut feel garbage check is I'm going to look at the sender sanity. I'm going to click on the sender name. Now, one thing I'll always tell people is, you might have heard, don't click on anything in a suspicious email. Well, sometimes you have to click on the sender name because you can't always tell the email address that an email comes from if you don't. There are email clients like Outlook where you can hover your mouse over it and it will pop up and show you the email address without clicking. That's great. But not every email program lets you do that. And on mobile, it's actually almost impossible to hover. I'm not sure how you do that. So I basically tell people it's okay to click on the sender name in an email. And when you look at the sender, it's pretty complex. s.kristen84 plus 77 at googlemail.com. So really Pretty suspicious right there. So clearly not from FedEx. So I would throw it out at this point, but let's keep going. So the next one is link elusiveness. So I'm going to look for links in this message. Let's say, okay, open your box. It's basically a message, that they're saying there's something, a surprise for you. But if you look at this, there's an interesting clue here. So do you see the domain name there, Pete?
DuckDNS.
DuckDNS.org. Does that tell you anything?
Yep, that's a DNS forwarding service.
Right. So it's often used by attackers, right, because it lets them switch from different IP addresses as their source server, right? So it makes it easy for them to be agile and change after they feel they've been doing this for too long from one place. So yeah, DuckDNS is a big clue that this is pretty suspicious. Finally, after link elusiveness is the body believability. So let's read the message, have a look at it in more detail, and see what we can learn from that. So the sender or the subject line is hurry up, exclamation, exclamation, FedEx surprises inside. So not really well worded or spelled or, grammar or style. And then of course there's the all important costumer, which is the greeting. Congratulations, you now have the opportunity to use your new FedEx. Oh, great. Participate now and maybe you and many others will get a selection of our latest patterns. Whatever that means. I have no idea. So yeah, not very believable. Then there's no links there's one little link at the very bottom. I'm just going to go there. It's again, DuckDNS. So yeah, they're trying to make it look somewhat like a FedEx thing. Probably not a lot of people would really believe that this is valid after looking at it for any number of seconds. But why do you think attackers even bother sending this kind of a message?
I mean, it's a numbers game at that point. You just send it to so many people and assumingly 1% or 0.5% is going to click on them.
Yeah, exactly. There's the curious people. There's the people who really are not, smart enough to figure out all the potential clues in here. So yeah, you're right. After, 10,000 of them, a few people are going to click, right?
It's interesting because the curious people are the dangerous ones. The number of customers we had that, so I thought this email was spam. So I clicked on it just to check. It's like, what?
Yes, absolutely. Cool. So yeah, that's our process. And we just like to, remind people that, it's not that hard to slow down, take a few seconds and check those things so you can actually avoid getting scammed in some ways.
The one that did it for me on that one is the FedEx logo. I think the FedEx logo is one of those, you go through like quizzes or like the online websites that say like there's some hidden things within the logos.
Yes.
There's no arrow. So between the Fed and the X is meant to be an arrow, and there's not. Yeah, and that's the thing I went, oh.
That's right. I didn't notice that, but you're right. And in fact, it uses the FedEx colors, but usually the FedEx logo is orange and blue, I guess.
That's right. Yeah. Well, it's actually the orange and the purple that's at the bottom. So they kind of tried to do it, but
sorry, I'm colorblind.
Oh,
so that's why I'm little dense there, but that's a good point because you usually do have that. It's really all in the font style, right? I mean, it's got its special, and I think they call it the use of negative space, right? In graphics terms, where the arrow I think is part of between the E and the X or something like that. There's an arrow that shows up. So, but yeah, really good catch there, Pete. So cool. So anyway, that was a fun exercise. So we're going to take a moment and give you an important message from our sponsors. And I'll be back to chat with Pete for a few more minutes. Okay, so here we go.
Cool.
All right, we're back again with Pete Matheson. So Pete, I think thanks very much for helping us with that phishing email. And I'd like to dig a little bit into what you're doing these days and any tips or thoughts you have for, first of all, our visitors and viewers. A lot of them are managed service providers. As you said, that was part of your past life. So I'd like to get any thoughts from you, whether it's on marketing or other lessons learned from the MSP world.
Yeah, very much so. I think it's interesting. So I've run my own MSP for the last pretty much decade. And now I'm working with, I think it's around 12 or 15 other MSPs doing like coaching and mentorship, whatever you want to call it. And it's really interesting because they all do it completely differently. I came from a background where I would never outsource anything. I really value the service that we deliver, so I would never outsource that to somebody. But I'm seeing people that are completely successfully building and growing their businesses by outsourcing them to a third party, not necessarily overseas, but still kind of within the country here. That's interesting because you can obviously scale your business much quicker if you're just outsourcing everything and just focusing on the sales and marketing. So that's one of the things I've certainly come across. And in terms of just general sales and marketing, it's such a difficult one out there. There is no magic kind of this one works. And I was actually on the stage with somebody else at DataCon, must have been 2 years ago now, before the pandemic and everything. And we were literally sat on opposite ends of the stage. I was sat there going, video marketing's great. Google AdWords haven't worked for us for the last 2 years. Opposite end of the stage was a guy that said, video marketing is awful. Google AdWords is our number one source of incoming leads. So it's just, you just never know.
Yeah, it's interesting you should mention that because back in the summertime, we tried Google AdWords. And what I noticed was, it definitely drove some traffic, but there was a really high bump in bounce rate, right? So people would come and then leave like right away. Maybe that's just part of, a combination of things, their lack of trust in a startup, or maybe we're offering something they weren't quite expecting. But in general, the quality of the people coming from Google AdWords, I don't know how good it is, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things. And the issue we have over here, it might be different over there, but most Google ads like agencies will struggle to get the clicks because there's just not a large amount of people searching for it. Mm-hmm. So you'll be paying 20 or 30 pounds a click in some cases just because it's high competition, but there's not many people searching for it.
Yeah.
So it drives the prices up. And even then it's such a difficult thing to get the click, get the interest. And that's why I kind of love the whole video marketing side of things, because you're not kind of competing for attention so much so with the Google ads where it's just everybody can do it and just click a button and they can appear on the first page. And the video marketing it's all just showing your personality, showing how you're different to everybody else. It does that whole like brand building thing. Like nobody goes to buy a Coca-Cola because they've got a special deal on that day. They go and buy it because they're like the Santa train, the Santa truck that drives through, and all that branding and stuff. And that's the thing that really got me into doing like the video marketing for the MSP side of things. And it's something that not many people do, which is it sets a really low bar for those that want to try and do it. So because no one's doing it, well, if you do it, you're already jumped up at that level anyway. So if my recommendation, like for pretty much everybody nowadays, I think you should have like a YouTube channel and focus on video marketing as one of their kind of main efforts. And it links back. I know we mentioned it just before. This was the Marcus Sheridan's They Ask You Answer.
Yes, yeah. So the book, actually, I've spoken about it with other guests too. So Marcus Sheridan is an author. Interesting story he had, right? Being a pool sales guy, and basically during the last recession, figured out a way to get more web traffic by just making blog posts about the questions they were getting from customers. And so the title of his book was They Ask You Answer. And it's basically a formula for getting content that people actually want to read.
Exactly that. Yeah, just answer their questions. That's literally, and in terms of MSPs, your questions are in your help desk. That's, loads of people I speak to go, I don't know what to make content about. Look at your help desk. You've probably got a few hundred tickets sat there with problems. just find the ones that are most common, start with that.
Yeah, exactly. Or sometimes what I'll do is just go through my last, day or two of emails with exchanges with customers, right? Or prospects. They're always asking the challenging questions. And if you can answer those on your website or in your videos, then that is probably applicable to a lot of people.
Those are the really good ones, actually, because they're you go into a sales meeting, they're the questions you get asked all the time. Like, how would you deal with this? Maybe if you're a one-man band, well, how would you deal with it if you need a holiday or you get hit by a bus? All those kind of things.
Yep.
Actually, if you can explain those in a really well thought out way in a blog post or video, whatever it is, then that just helps answer all of those questions before you go and meet the customer. So when you go and meet them, they kind of already know the answers. That hopefully they're just there to say, hey, I love you, love your pricing, love your service. Let's just sign up.
Yeah, yeah, and I got some really interesting insights out of just following even following people that follow Marcus, or like there's a whole bunch of ecosystem around that whole concept, right? But the things that we're afraid of, like how many websites don't have pricing information on them, right? Maybe it's not as big in the MSP world. What do you think in terms of posting stuff like pricing on your website?
I've had so many discussions around this. I always think that if you are, yes, it's difficult. I would always post pricing. So my MSP coaching side of things, I posted pricing for that. I just think that pricing shouldn't be the argument. And there's all the kind of discussion and argument around you need to show the value and then you can show them the price. Well, I don't kind of want to waste my time with the people that are never going to buy because the price puts them off.
Yeah.
So I'd rather go with the ones that are, and yes, you might lose some sales to it, but actually the sales you will get are going to be happy with the price. And actually, because you're publicly displaying the price, that means there's little to no negotiation.
Yeah.
Everyone's paying the same thing. It's like a Netflix subscription, you sign up. It's not like it because it's such a wide variety of things that comes with it. But essentially it is. You can say, this is the product, this is the service we offer. That's the price.
The expectations are set, and you don't have to spend so much time negotiating it. Yeah.
So I'm very fond of sharing pricing on websites.
Excellent. Good. Cool. Any other books that come to mind that you've found useful?
Yeah, there's probably one more, and I say it in loads of my videos, which I still kind of put out videos on my YouTube channel, which is Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. Again, just a fantastic read. And I was never... it's not about profit first. I mean, it is and it isn't. It's not like I'm going to make a load of profit, take it away and run. It's not like that at all. The whole idea is that when you're running a business, the last person to get paid is normally the business owner, because you're busy paying your staff, paying suppliers and all those kind of things. And I was never bad at managing money. We had one bank account, everything came in and went out of that one bank account.
Yeah.
And it would get to the end of the month or the end of the quarter and you go, hey, how much profit we made? Well, the bank balance doesn't really dip below that number. So I think we can take about that much out for profit. There's just no real kind of calculation. And then you've got kind of tax to take into account, and that might be paid next year or in a year and a half. So there's the whole delay behind that.
Yeah.
And Profit First was such a simple concept where you pay yourself twice a month, and actually every single bit of income that comes into the company just gets divided into these separate savings accounts. So you slowly over time you save up for things like office equipment or expenses or staff bonuses, Christmas bonuses,
ransomware payments, and
hopefully not ransomware payments. but you start building that up, and it's so good to the point where you'll get to the end of the year, you get to maybe like November, December time, and you go, hey, we've got, I don't know, a couple of grand sat in the Christmas party account. Yeah. Let's go and spend a couple of grand. There's no kind of, can we afford it? Can we not? And there was a situation where we had, I can't remember how much it was. It was a few grand sat in our office equipment account, and we just turned around to all the staff and said, "What do you want? Like, we've got some money. Do you want widescreen monitors, like 34-inch ultra widescreen monitors?" Yeah. And we had a couple in there already, and they're like, "Yeah, let's do it." So we literally went out and spent a fair bit of money on just widescreen monitors for everybody, and they all loved it for a short period of time before they got bored of that and wanted the next thing.
So that concept of dividing up revenue into different sort of virtual accounts, does that come from the book, or is that
exactly that? So it just walks you through like the methodology of how to do it and how to make sure you're doing it regularly, the process, the thought process behind it, and that even then went on into our personal family lives as well. So we now do Profit First with our family. So when the money I make each month between me and my wife, it goes into one account and then gets split into doing up your house, holiday funds, although you can't have a holiday now. Anything else? Kids savings accounts, food accounts, entertainment account if you want to go out and we're allowed to go out again. It's those kind of things where you can just split them up. And again, if you have, say, you'll have a good month one month, well, actually you'll have a bit more money in your food account, so you can now afford to go out or get a takeaway or enjoy it a bit more.
Right.
It's just fantastic. And like I say, we weren't bad at managing our money, but that just meant I could literally just look at our bank account and go, hey, we can afford that. Let's go buy it, without having to do the whole, can we? But there's tax coming out in a few months' time. It just gets rid of that whole decision. Yeah.
That's great. Awesome. Well, I think, that probably covers the amount of time that we have to chat today, but maybe we'll get a chance to do another call again sometime. And it was really a pleasure to have you on today, Pete. And hope you all stay safe and have a great year.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.